host, Laura Jennings Siljander. I need to start saying Siljander. Just changed the last name. Officially, I went to the Social Security office today, and so it is official. Laura Siljander. I dropped Jennings, which, kind of hurt a little bit, but it's okay because I love my husband. So welcome, you guys. Our mission here is to give you the encouragement and tools you need to walk in victory with God every day for the week ahead. And with me tonight, I have a former classmate from high school, Charles Hite, who has quite the story for you. And you never know. You never know what stories someone has that the Lord has put inside of them. And Charles has a testimony of overcoming some mental health issues over the past several years. And he actually died and came back to life. And that's not just physically, but also spiritually. And so I'm going to have him share his testimony and hopefully be an encouragement to those of you who maybe yourselves have gone through mental health issues or depression, that sort of thing, or have people in your life who are going through that now. This is going to be such a powerful, inspiring word tonight for you. And I believe the Holy Spirit has that word through Charles to share with you. So with that being said, Charles, and I'm still getting used to saying Charles. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
He went by another name in high school, but it's a new day, so a new name to appropriately go by. Well,
Yes.
It's not really new, but how have things been the past few weeks?
Things have been good. Even though it's been a year of growth, and different struggles, I still struggle just in different ways. And for the past few weeks have been good. I still deal with anxiety, but now when anxiety hits me, I kind of know how to deal with that and cope with that in healthy ways rather than the unhealthy ways that I can share about a little bit later. So it's been good. The Lord's working in my life, and a big thing for me is just patience, and for His time when He's ready, and community and career is something I've been praying about. And the old me, and still selfishly, kind of I want things to happen right now, but I know that's not how He works. So He's really been putting and grinding me with patience. So that's something.
Patience.
I really
Did you pray for patience? Because that's a dangerous prayer. Faith and patience, the two things that will really test you. And everyone knows if you've prayed for it, you've gone through hell and back.
Yeah, and patience is something I used to never have. And we can talk more about that, but I would go from 0 to 60, 0 to 100, and like that. Back in the day, if you looked at me the wrong way, I'd snap. Did not have patience. So now it's, really just being confident in who I am, and just knowing everything happens for a reason, and it doesn't always happen when we want it. So when the time is right, it'll happen. And patience is something I have prayed for, and it's still a struggle because I still want things to happen right now at times, but I know it's not how He works.
Yep. And don't we all? But day by day, I know that's the motto, and we'll kind of get into that too later. Take things day by day.
Yes.
And speaking of which, you have a podcast you've recently released called The Rabbit Hole Show, where you are sharing your story, your journey with those listening, kind of inviting them into that story. What prompted you to start that podcast, if I can ask, and what's the purpose?
Yeah. So the last rehab I was at, after everything had happened, after me overdosing and dying, and I ended up going to my last treatment center. It was in Florida, called Honey Lake Clinic. It was a Christian treatment center. So if anyone is out there looking for a treatment center, I've been to several. This one was a Christian treatment center, and it was made a big difference. I knew all the material, knew the things to say, but the people who were there really kind of like a brotherhood and even sisterhood with the other clients there is something that really helped me. But some of the guys that I got close with were just listening to stories that I was sharing, and they said, you need to do something with this. Um, and got reconnected with my roommate now, who also helps me with the podcast. We met in 2016 at my first treatment center, the Dilworth Center, and I completed half of that, and so I don't need it. And we got reconnected with him last year after getting back from Honey Lake, and he was kind of going through some things and reconnected. And he had done a podcast before and kind of a tech guy, and he said, you need to share your story. So with his help and some prayer, I started the podcast called The Rabbit Hole Show, and came out with a mission statement probably a month ago. And I'll just go ahead and read that. I think it kind of sums up what the podcast is about and our mission. So our mission statement for the Rabbit Hole Show. The Rabbit Hole Show, a mental health podcast founded by me, Charles Hite, was created as a platform for sharing stories. Like many, I believed I was alone in my struggles. I aimed to keep my depression, anxiety, and addiction hidden, only making things worse. Last year, I found myself at rock bottom and knew I had to make a change to save my life. We all have a story. We all struggle. The good news, we are not alone in the battle. So come join the Rabbit Hole Show community with weekly episodes of vulnerability, accountability, encouragement, and hope. So the premise of the show started out kind of the first 9 episodes are just Casey and I talking, sharing my story, and just some topics that I felt like needed to be heard. And then people said, you need to have guests on. And I was like, I don't need to have guests on, but it makes a big difference because, again, we all have a story. We all have struggles, and they're all different. Everyone has a story, and everyone has struggles, and nothing is alike generally. And a lot of times we hide that and think we're alone, but in reality, we're not alone. So allowing guests to come on and share their story and struggles and how they've overcome those struggles to get where they are today, in hopes that people listening will be able to resonate with their story and know that they're not alone. So we have 29 episodes out currently and have recorded 30, and then have all the way through July booked out. And they come out Thursday mornings at 6 a.m. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. You've been consistent. I've actually listened to several of your episodes and I've really enjoyed them. And they're short. They're short enough. Like ours here are, 45 to 55 minutes, but you keep yours pretty concise.
Yeah,
and the stories have been really fun. Well, not all of them fun, but really engaging and moving.
Yeah, and with the guests, they've started to become a little longer. Some of them are kind of around an hour with guests, but some of the stories, could take a lot longer. Like our guest that we had 2 weeks ago, he escaped Liberia during the Civil War, was lined up to be executed, and God made a way for them to escape to the Ivory Coast and then eventually to the United States. I guess that we have coming up, we're recording on Monday, that I'm sure a lot of people might have heard or at least seen the movie The Informant with Matt Damon, a movie based about the life of Mark Whitaker, large price-fixing scheme, embezzlement with company ADM. I recently got connected and met him, heard his story, shared my story, and we exchanged numbers, and he's willing and wants to come on and share his story. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, your skin color, your area code. We all have a story, and every story is different, but we all have a story, and we're not alone. So
I love that. That's amazing. Actually, I didn't know you had so many guests coming on. I've only listened to the first several episodes or season 1. And
Yeah.
so this is really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys are interested in watching this, I'll put on the ticker at the end of this live stream how you guys can get in touch with Charles and watch or listen to rather the Rabbit
Mhm.
Hole Show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, and we do record them. We just haven't put any of the videos out there. And that's something that will come eventually. But right now,
Progress.
just kind of getting the recordings out there. But if you're listening and you're a parent who has a loved one or a child that is struggling with addiction, mental health, go check out episode 23 on the Rabbit Hole Show. Had two very special guests, my mom and dad, and that episode talk about their journey within my journey because it is our journey. And we're not a perfect family, but we're a healthy family now. So it's a good episode to maybe start with to hear my story within their story because it was a rough one. I drugged them through the dirt. Many phone calls, hospital visits, jails, psych wards, rehabs.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're okay with it, we talked before the show about you. You said you're an open book and would love to share. I would love to have you share a little snapshot of your testimony. What happened, over the years? What were you kind of struggling with? And then where was the turning point to get to where we are today?
Yeah. So grew up, born, raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're from here, I've heard we're unicorns. I was born at Presbyterian Hospital. So again, two loving parents, raised in a Christian family, attended Carmel Baptist public school, and then in 7th grade started at Covenant Day. And the reason for that switch was ADD, ADHD, just needed smaller class sizes because public schools here in Charlotte Mech are overpopulated, and it's hard for teachers with kids at 30 plus size classes. So parents and I thought that would be best, and it was a great decision. So I began Covenant Day in 7th grade, and 7th grade was when I first experienced loss. My grandfather passed suddenly, and so that was hard, but I was in a good environment, Covenant Day, when that happened, and I never dealt with that before and didn't really know how, but got through that with positive community and played sports at Covenant Day, basketball primarily, and then also did play tennis. My grandmother grew up playing tennis, so always played with her, and it was also a way to get out of school early dismissal, and yeah, and the team moms had good snacks, so that was my reason for playing tennis. But on a serious note, I struggled with school, attention span, and I wasn't on medication, so it was hard. I was a social butterfly, played basketball and was decent at that, I believe. And
I think so too.
thank you. And so I would say that's kind of where struggles began. I was not seeing myself as others saw me, I would say. I compared myself to the scholars of Covenant Day, and that frustrated me. But I was social and could talk to a rock. I could talk to anyone. Didn't matter who, I could talk to you. And that's a gift that I have been blessed with, I believe. And so trying to figure out where to go to school. Chapel Hill was a school I grew up rooting for. Loved the ACC, all those big schools, but academically wasn't able to get into those. Didn't even apply, and applied to I think 5 schools, smaller schools, just due to my GPA. And because I didn't take school seriously because, I mean, I did, but it was a challenge. So I kind of fell behind, I would say. Um, my dad always pushed me to do my best. And at times I was doing my best when he didn't believe I was. And then there was times where I wasn't doing my best because I would just get frustrated with myself. I would study and just retaining information was hard. I would freeze on tests, and writing a paper for me or doing a project was where I kind of was best at. I was able to express myself with those rather than making a decision like that on the test. But fast forward, went to Gardner Webb. Went to Gardner Webb and was there for a year, and then transferred to Appalachian. And Appalachian was fun. It was a lot of fun. We'll say academically, wasn't there for that. As I talked about on a previous episode on the Rabbit Hole Show, a lot of people go to school just because college, because that's the next thing to do. It's what you're taught to do.
Yeah.
It's what it's expected almost, and it's not what you have to do. Take time off or go to a trade school. College isn't for everyone, but I mean, education is important. And I'm glad I went to school. I'm not saying that at all, but so I went to App, joined a fraternity. And basketball was something that I wanted to still pursue, but partying in my mind was more fun. And that's kind of, where, and I did party in high school some. Gardner Webb I did, but it's hard there. It's a dry county, dry town, or it was when I was there. I've heard recently it's changed, but small private Christian school. So academically it was good there, but socially it was not. So that was my reason for wanting to transfer.
Right. Especially when you're a social butterfly, you need to fly.
Yeah, you need to fly. And it's almost, I would say, a suitcase school, or was when I was there. So I would leave a lot of weekends and go to other schools or come back to Charlotte. And my roommate, who was my best friend, was transferring out of Gardner Webb to go to UNC Charlotte to pursue, engineering. His was an academic decision. Mine was a social decision. And got to App, joined a fraternity, and partied a lot. School was still a struggle for me there. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life post-college. I was just in college, because that's what I knew I needed to do, and kind of was everyone did. So I bounced around with different majors, and eventually ended up doing tourism and hospitality, and then minored in marketing. And tourism and hospitality came pretty easy, and I think that was maybe one decision that is why I declared that as a major, because I excelled in it. And then 2012 is kind of when, October 2012 is when, I lost somebody else in my life, and that's kind of when things started to go downhill. And it was a close family friend, and he was a freshman at Chapel Hill, and passed away, was killed one evening, and it's a cold case, still not sure exactly what happened, believed it was hazing, but I didn't know how to deal with that. And as a man, I bottled up my emotions and kind of kept them, stuffed down. And again, going back, I'm in a fraternity, so I'm partying a lot. And when you are drinking, partying, emotions tend to come up, and not in a healthy way. So that's when I began to get aggressive, would fight a lot, and graduated college 2013, and that continued after college. Still didn't know what I wanted to do career wise, and still dealing with a lot of emotions, and you know, and it was hard. Um, and not talking about things can make things worse, and that's what it did for me. And so I would say 2012 until last year, and there was times when I would say I was calm. It was generally when I was in a relationship, because that's something, a void that I always needed to fill. And I didn't get in a relationship or date, girlfriend, I would say, um, a lot, probably 4 or 5 girlfriends, but I was always talking to a girl to fill that void of loneliness and love, to feel loved.
And that
And
was that because too women process emotions maybe a little differently than guys and can help you process through some of that.
yeah, and I just felt, a sense of, comfort
Comfort, yeah.
around a woman. And because with men, it's hard for us to talk about our emotions. And so generally during those, the first couple were rough, where I was partying still, and kind of partied them out of my life, I would say. Respectfully so, I wouldn't have wanted to date me. And um, um, and things got worse. Began to get arrested. Um, First arrest, I guess first arrest, a minor one, but I mean, not many people say an arrest is minor. Um, was sophomore year of college, and then uh, went and got arrested in 2015 again. And in my mind, it was kind of like I got some street cred now, you know, um, and went based off of, I knew I needed help, but then a lot of people in my life were saying you need help, and so kind of to get people off my back, agreed to go to treatment centers, outpatient, one in Charlotte. That if you're in Charlotte and are looking for a place, and I know treatment centers, a lot of them, go away. It's residential, but outpatients do work, and if you're looking for one, the Dilworth Center here in Charlotte is one that you can check out. Um, so went there, did 7 weeks, and thought, I can do this on my own. Don't need this help. And went left, and not too much long later, got arrested again. Um, and then and I trying to figure out career still, bouncing from job to job, getting fired, girlfriends breaking up with me. So a lot of just negativity in my life. My self-worth was just depleting. Didn't see a lot of worth in myself. The love wasn't there that others showed me. Suicide was on my mind always. And if you're listening and thinking about that, do not do it. And if you don't do it, because you're gone, your problems are over per se, but the ripple effect it has on others, and that's something that is hard, and your family, your loved ones, and it's something that they'll never fully get over. So if you're thinking about that, don't do it. It's not worth it. I tried many times, and the Lord prevented me from being able to go through with that, those acts. Thank God, literally, thank God that I was not able to go through with those. And I felt the Holy Spirit during those times, especially one, and I'll share about in a minute, because I wouldn't be here today, on your show, sharing my testimony, and for Motivational Monday. And we all have struggles, as I was saying earlier, and it's how you overcome your struggles. We're all going to be in a valley at some point in our life, and that valley is where you grow. When you come out, the growth from where when you went in to where when you leave that valley. Um, some are small and short, some are long and dark. Mine was long and dark, but I wouldn't change it because I wouldn't be who I am today. Um, so fast forward, thought I found a career and was enjoying it, and I was an ops finance analyst at a company out in Ballantyne, Premier, and loved it. But it was a way for me to escape from my problems and allow people to see my worth through my work. And that was something I was very prideful of. Here's what I'm doing. People will accept me now. And that's not true. That's what the world tells you is your worth. How much money you make, where you live, the relationship you're in, the car you drive, the job you have. That's a lie, though. That's what the world tells you. And I had to learn that the hard way. And I had gotten on college, had been gotten prescribed Adderall, and stopped taking that because in college I took it only when I had a test or a paper, and I would take it the night prior and pull an all-nighter. So I was very familiar with all-nighters, and that's probably a reason why I struggled in school or in college. Didn't do well on tests because I would start studying the night before. Next morning, would go and take a test having not slept and have a literal brain fart and not remember anything. So I knew Adderall was something that helped me focus and kept me awake. So when work, the amount of work grew, that was something I knew I could use. So I went and talked to my doctor, and I do have ADD, ADHD, but I used it not how it was intended, and that created problems. Because one small decision you make, no matter how small or how big it is in that moment, it will affect you later in life, negative or positively. And so with that, I was able just to knock out a lot of work, and that was my escape. I would work 2-3 days straight without sleeping because I was able to stay awake. And it got to the point where I would even, if I ran out of Adderall, I would drink pre-workout or.
Oh my gosh.
Cocaine was a part of my life. It wasn't an everyday thing, but it was a party drug. And when I did it, it wasn't just 1 line, 2 lines. It was, we're going to keep going until we cannot go anymore. So it was a bender. And, yeah. And so, with not sleeping, being awake, staring at Excel, computer screen for days on end, going to sleep for 4 or 5 hours, waking up and repeating that. And then on the weekends, if I wasn't working, I locked myself in my room, kept it dark, and just isolated. And when you isolate and aren't in community, you're only with your thoughts. And when you're in that season of life and you're with your thoughts, they're going to be negative. So suicide was even greater. The one day, January of 2019, was kind of when everything came, almost to an end, and was also the beginning of God working in my life. He's always been working, but when I really felt Him, but it didn't get easier per se, and still wasn't pretty. I had been awake for a while, and at this point I was in psychosis, so I was seeing and hearing things, and that's scary if you've never been in that state. And so that's one reason I'm huge on getting sleep now. But don't get too much sleep. But because you need your mind sharp, and sleeping and resting is how you rejuvenate and recharge. Not through drugs. And so day at work, just lost it. went out to my car and just started weeping uncontrollably, and was like, it'd just be better if I just, am no longer here. I won't be a burden on anybody.
Mm.
And, suicide had, prior had been on my mind in some attempts, but, or maybe more ideation. But this day I left work and was driving home to go shoot myself. And when I got to the house, my roommate at the time, and he was like an older brother, is like an older brother, his mom and the appraiser were at the house. So obviously not going
Wow.
inside to go through the act, and just felt, lost, but knew it wasn't going to happen. And later that night, went back to work actually, and finished out the day, if you can believe that. And I then went to therapy, and that night, and came home and was falling asleep and hallucinated. And long story short, ended up in the psych ward, and that started my year 2019 with bouncing around from rehabs and psych wards. Came back and got connected with land surveying, which is what I've been doing since January of 2020. It's a job, it's not a career, and it's something I've been praying for. Two things: community and a career. And I got that job, something stress-free, kind of, while I work on myself and get my life back in order. And going back to community, got connected with some people who then got connected with other people and weren't per se the best community. So was running around with some rough people in Charlotte, and when you're running around and in some dark places and partying, because I never had issues with partying. Whenever I went to a treatment center, it was always depression, anxiety, mental health, which is something that was an issue, but never talked about the cocaine and the drug addiction. So we'll say in February of last year, I hallucinated and went manic, and got hit by a car. This is while I was getting a tattoo. Incident happened, and ran out of the tattoo shop after thinking I was getting stabbed and robbed because of drug induced kind of manic, and got hit by a car, and then a week later got COVID and was just even more depressed because I was alone and just didn't see life going anywhere for me, and was always comparing myself to other people. When I was younger, it was school and academics, and now it was everyone's getting married, having kids. Their lives are going on, and what am I doing? So I reached out to Hopeway Treatment Center here in Charlotte, which is an amazing place if anyone wants a residential place. Reached out to them because that was the first place I went to in 2019. They said, no, we're not going to take you back. Understandably, I was, in 2019, I wasn't really ready, and was aggressive, and pride was an issue, and I wasn't going to let anyone push me around, and I let people know that. But they did refer me to a place in Tennessee, the Ranch, and so I went there, was in the mental health house, and it was a good experience, and that's where I learned what acceptance was. And that's something I had never, been able to do. I had to accept my past. My first tattoo, I don't know if you can see it, but it's one day at a time. And tattoo is, and I got this in 2015. You can't undo the past. You're not promised tomorrow. All you have is right now. So one day at a time. I was always worried about how my past was going to affect my future, and was always having anxiety, and wasn't the moment, the current present moment was slipping by because I wasn't in it. I was always dwelling on and worried about my past and fearful of my future. Um, so I went to the ranch, completed that, I learned what acceptance was. But this is where the story is starting to come to an end, and kind of the turning point. But this is where the rock bottom hits. And so get out of rehab, and within an hour or two, get arrested on some pretty serious charges. And not really talking to the family at this point. And I knew they loved me, but didn't know they loved me, if that makes sense. Because
it's hard to receive that. Was it just hard to receive?
Yeah, it was, because of all the, what I've put them through, all the trauma I caused on them. Because your actions don't just affect you; it affects everyone around you. And so, locked up in Dixon County, Tennessee, and was there for a few weeks, and got released on a plea deal, but was, facing some prison time, and really sitting in the or the jail, had to accept that you can't do anything when you're in there. A lot of things are out of your control, and that was something in my life that I'd always, struggled with, needing to be in control and to control things in my life. And things that I couldn't control, I would fixate on, and it would just, spiral out of control.
Yeah.
So sitting inside the jail for those several weeks was, having to take time just to reflect. And a lot of that reflection was on my mental health. And the reason I say that is because drugs had never, been an issue, or I guess consequences had never happened due to drugs. So got released shortly before, I think it was a day before my 30th birthday. And, I called my sister when I had gotten booked, and wasn't getting out, and was just weeping, and she could tell, like, this is the last time. And because I knew I'd messed up. And I wasn't scared that I was in jail. I was just scared of where my life was because of my actions. Because there's two things I said that I would never let happen. Those two things were prison, or facing prison time, and then dying, like an overdose. Because we're all going to die. So get released and go to the beach with the family. Things are looking good, positive. A lot of good, conversation there. But the Lord wasn't done working. I mean, He's never done working on you, but He wasn't. He still had some things to show me and to really wake me up. So about 24, 25 days after I got released from jail, I go on my last bender, and it was a wild one. But I wake up, after that bender, I wake up a couple days later on a ventilator, life support, neuro ICU, and don't know what happened. My dad's on my left. I think my mom's in the room. Not sure who else.
I have a picture of this if you want me to show it.
Yeah, please do.
You can carry on with your story. That's your mom right there, right?
That's my mom, and that's me on life support. And that's a picture that I keep close to me. It's not a war story, but it's a reminder of, how bad my life got, how bad I let it get. And if you're listening and you're going through addiction problems, mental health, speak on it. Don't keep that bottled in, because if you keep it bottled in, that could be you. And the reality is, a lot of people don't come off life support, don't wake up and get a second chance after an overdose. My body was tired. It's been 10 years of just living that lifestyle. And my mom is a prayer warrior saint. Without my family, I would be dead or in prison. And those two things were a reality. Um, and it would have happened a lot sooner. But because I was blessed to be born into the Hite family, it took longer because, of their compassion and love. But I'm here now to be able to share this story with y'all. And
Amen.
so I woke up and found out I had overdosed and died. And I was actually Epsilon 9, which is like a John Doe on the ninth floor. No wallet, no phone, nothing. And fire truck found me and brought me in the fire truck, I believe, to the hospital. And one of my good buddies, his sister was a nurse on the ninth floor and recognized me just based off, face and tattoos, and was able to work with, I believe, her father and the doctor. Her father's a lawyer, I believe, and kind of navigate HIPAA laws and get in contact with my family. And my mom was in Charlotte, and dad and sister were down at the beach house. And this is how they thought they were going to say goodbye to me. And there's a letter I had wrote that I had written in, it was either February, or there's a date, February 26th. And I wrote this story, and it's called Phone Calls, and it's in from my mom's cell phone perspective. So I wrote this February 26th, and I'll read it so y'all can hear it. Just
and this was before all this happened. So it's not like you planned for anything. Unlike planned attempts, this was just unplanned. Didn't mean for it to happen, but yet you actually wrote this letter.
Yeah, I was at which I was hoping would be my last rehab, but I went to one more afterwards due to the death and the OD, but was in a group therapy, and they had us write. So I can't remember the prompt, but I titled it "Phone Calls," and it was from the perspective of my mom's cell phone, because over the last 10 years. Her phone had heard a lot of stuff and experienced a lot of trauma. So I wrote that in from her cell phone's perspective. And if you want, I can read that now.
Yeah, please read it. Go ahead.
All right. So it's titled Phone Calls by Charles Hite. Ring, ring. Hello? Hey, it's me again. Is he okay? We need you to come and identify the body. Why? What happened? No. I've been fearing this call. He didn't even make it to 30 years old. Dialing, and then my cell phone number. Ring, ring. Hey, it's Charles. Can't come to the phone right now. Leave a message at the beep, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks, and have a great day. Hi, it's your mom. Just got a call to come identify your body. And can't believe this day I've feared has actually come. I pray this is a dream, and I wake up from this nightmare. Why are you gone? What happened? What could I have done? I can't handle this pain, and didn't know you had all this pain and suffering. Why couldn't you talk to me? Where did I go wrong? I can't hold you and touch you. No more hugs or kisses. I don't have to dread the phone call I just got. No mother should have to go through this. So many calls I got from hospitals, cops, jails, and this call I hope I can recover from. But you're my firstborn, oldest leader, and now you're gone. I don't get to have tears of joy when you find the girl to marry and walk down the aisle. Be there to hold your firstborn. Why couldn't I outlive you? What could I have done differently? Why did I have to get this call we've been dreading? This shouldn't happen to a mother. Just know you're loved, and you were the best son a mom could ask for. Rest in peace, and I'll see you in heaven. Just know you weren't a burden, and it was a joy to be your mother. Beat, and the phone clicks. It's tough to read even now.
It's tough to hear. I can only imagine what your mom must have felt like when
Yeah,
it sounded like that phone call kind of came to fruition soon thereafter.
yeah, it did. So I wrote that February 26th, and I believe I gave that to her a week or two prior to that picture that you posted. Um, and if you go back and listen to episode 23 with the parents, you'll hear her talk a little bit about it. And a mother, should never get that call, but the reality is a lot of mothers do. A lot of parents do. And that reason is just, I believe, mental health, heart issue, and you're lost, don't know what to do, and you're trying to do it on your own, and you can't do it on your own. You can only do it with the Lord, and walk with Him, and He'll carry you when you can't walk. There's a poem, I can't remember, but the title is Footprints. I just remember there's a visual where there's a 4 set of footprints, and you know the person looks back later and there's only 2 footprints, and it's like, why weren't you with me, Lord? And He's like, I was carrying you. And that's what He was doing with me. But yeah, my mother, in that episode 23, she talks about just how hard it was. And it was hard. It was a train, and the train was heading to wreck, and she was just having to hold on and wait for that train to wreck, praying that it wouldn't, but knowing it probably would. And when she got the call, not being able to talk to me again, she thought, but with the way I was living, it wasn't a healthy life, and not something a mother wants to watch their child do. And so it was kind of a blessing. Hey, he's done fighting, but I won't be able to talk to him again here on this earth. And so yeah, that letter, or that story I wrote, there was no intent behind it. It was from the heart, and but it shows that until you fully surrender, and and I pray for people listening, anyone that is going through addiction battles, mental health, suicide ideation, that it doesn't have to get as bad as it did for me for you to wake up. 'Cause I had several wake-up calls along the way, and none of them were severe enough to get my attention. And I'd always said, as I said earlier, 2 things that will never happen to me happened to me, and that's what it took.
Hmm.
So,
What were some of the things after God essentially saved your life, through the prayers of a praying mother, the prayers of other people in your life at that time? I'm sure of it. What were some of the shifts you had in your mindset and in your heart after that moment?
um, well, when I woke up off life support and my dad told me what had happened, I knew at that point I had to make a change, or I would be dead, or in prison for a very long time, life, if I didn't make a change. And if I wanted my dreams of being a father, a husband, being successful in the community. And to me, success is not money. It's your name. When people hear your name, how do they see you? And a lot of people didn't see me in a good light. I lost a lot of friends along the way. Some to death because of addiction and different things, but a lot of friends and people in my life I lost just because of who I became, and they didn't want to associate with me, and I don't blame them, because I wouldn't have wanted to associate with a person like me as well,
Mm.
because you never know who you're going to get. And so just that switch to make the change
Yeah.
to be better and be able to restore those relationships with those people who were still by my side and came to visit me in the hospital on life support.
Mm.
The people who called me, when I was locked up to, pour into me, uh, those people, those are the ones who, stayed by my side and really showed me that they loved me when I didn't know how to love myself.
Mm.
Again, I'm outgoing, and so I always loved other people and tried to pour into other people. But you can't do that if you don't love yourself. If you're not healthy, you can't help somebody else. And I was trying to do that while, hiding and living almost a different life, kind of at times. But and that didn't happen overnight. I knew I needed to make a change, but how do you go from waking up off life support to making that change?
Mm.
Pride was a big issue in my life. I wanted to be in control. I didn't like authority. I didn't want to hear people tell me what to do. I knew what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But when I did it my way, y'all have heard what happens. It's not pretty. It's not fun. And also it's very expensive.
Side note, as you have been healing the past several years, and maybe in light of those watching right now who have either gone through depression or other mental health issues, or have people in their life, loved ones, friends who are going through that, what are some things you've learned along the way to help accelerate your healing process?
Speak on it. Do not hold it in. Don't tell everybody, but those that you trust and are close to, whether it's a family member, therapist is something that I believe is big. Even when you don't have struggles and things going on in your life, but someone you can just talk life with that has the knowledge and can walk with you. I've been seeing my therapist, Dr. Dodd, at Level Ground Christian here in Charlotte. If anyone's looking for a therapist, him and his wife, Cindy, have a clinic that I would check out if you're looking for someone, Christian therapist. And he's someone that has seen me at my low. And, now we are, our conversations are a lot different than what they used to be. And, he's helping me just figure out life as it comes. Because I still worry about the future some, but I can't, because I'm not promised tomorrow. I can't undo the past, and I can't dwell on it, because that only creates anxiety and stress, and I can't undo it. So all I have is right now. And so when I do have anxiety or stress, come about in my life, I have those people I can talk to. I don't hide it in and try and act tough and like I have my life together, because I don't. I am living healthy now, but you still need those people in that community where when things get tough, that you can reach out to and have that support and love, because we need it. You can't. Life wasn't meant to do alone.
Yeah, it's not good that man should be alone.
No.
One of the first things that God said to Adam in the garden. Yeah, it's so important, community. And, I think there's balance to be had too. I also grew up in the church, and I used to be a lone wolf. We're thinking you have your walk and you can just do life by yourself and be just fine. But what you end up being is a target for the enemy, and you get sniped out when you're on your own. Or when you're with the wrong crowd, you end up getting taken out with the Philistines. The victory comes to those who abide in Christ. And in community, there's protection. And so that's so good. It's such a good word. There needs to be balance, having that relationship with God where you can be filled up, having inside of you an understanding of your worth, your identity, knowing that you are fully accepted and loved by Jesus. And then from that place of being full by him, we can love others. But sometimes we aren't necessarily in our spirit all the time. We're in our soul, where we're battling with things that we're dealing with in the flesh. And that's where the danger is. And so, in a perfect world, you can just go to your prayer closet and deal with it. But sometimes you got to actually talk to people and work it out, because they may have wisdom or an encouraging word, or just be a sounding board for you to process and hear what's going on in your thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's so healthy to have that. And it does not indicate weakness at all.
It actually indicates strength.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being able to speak on it.
And I really appreciate you being so vulnerable, sharing your testimony, your story on the show. I know it's not easy. You've told it so many times. I'm sure it's become easy for you.
Yeah.
Maybe with a few exceptions here and there.
Yeah, I hadn't read that story in quite a while, so those were raw emotions. I had read it enough prior to where I didn't get emotional reading it, but when you take some time away and read that again, it really hit home of a lifestyle that I was living and where it took me over the years, and eventually took me to facing prison and dying. But God has given and blessed me with a second chance, and I know I have purpose, because prior I didn't know what my purpose was. And I still don't know what a career looks like for me, but I know God is in control and He will provide. And I just have to be patient, as I've been praying for. But He took me and allowed me to come out of that dark place I was in, to be able to share my story and share hope for those who don't feel like they have hope right now, and feel like they're alone, because reality is you're not alone.
Amen. And if you would like to join Charles on his journey and hear more of his story, also hear more of some of the other testimonies he's had on his show, the Rabbit Hole Show, I'm going to put at the bottom of the screen for you the ticker for the link tree, where you can go click through to his podcast on, was it Spotify and Apple Podcast?
Correct. And there's a few on YouTube. We don't have them all up there, but one day we'll have them all on YouTube. But yeah, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and then we also have an Instagram page if you'd like to follow on there, just for more content, and you're able to stay a little more in tuned with just when things are coming out, and guests, and then also we have an email if anyone wants to reach out and needs to talk to someone. I'm always available, and that's the Rabbit Hole Show 21 at gmail.com, because I've been there. So if anyone's going through mental health struggles, addiction struggles, you name it, I'd be more than happy to connect with you, with anyone who needs that. So
Amen. Thank you so much, Charles. And I would reiterate, if you do want to talk, he's a great person to talk to. Listen to his podcast. He's got some wisdom and nuggets there, as well as some wonderful stories of him, his family, friends that come on the show. So thank you again, Charles, for joining us tonight. I'm so excited to see the fruit that becomes of this. Everything that God touches has increase in life. And so I just know that everything that you shared tonight is going to produce life for those who've listened, and it's going to create increase in their harvest. And so may your ministry be blessed as you carry on, just sharing your testimony, being faithful, letting people into your journey, and paying it forward, what God did for you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for you to have me on the show. And vulnerability was something I never thought I would, have. But the Lord works in mysterious ways. So it's a blessing.
Amen. Well, thank you guys. And we'll catch you next Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, have a blessed week ahead. Go walk in victory, and good night.
Amen.